Well, hello there. You know, in Hollywood, there's always been female actors known as blonde bombshells. You know, sexually attractive women with shapely curves and blonde hair, usually bleach blonde hair. Some say the first was Jean Harlow, famous for not wearing any underwear. Then she was followed by Veronica Lake, who famously had her breasts pop out during a screen test. Oh, and she also had that hair that covered one eye. There's been many, but best known, of course, was Marilyn Monroe. Soon after Marilyn became a thing, two other women with similar hourglass body types followed, Jane Mansfield and the subject of this episode, Mamie Van Doren. Miss Van Doren, believe it or not, had a 50-year acting career both on the stage and screen. She's written books and recorded music, and this episode is all about her. Well, hello there, Old Man Kelly here, Jeff to my friends, and you can call me Jeff. So, you know, there's a special kind of charisma to Mamie Van Doren. As one of the 3Ms along with Marilyn Monroe and Jane Mansfield, she had a long and eventful career. And although her films aren't considered classics like many of Monroe's films, they are entertaining in a sort of cheesy pop culture sort of way. They've become cult classics. Now, Van Doren knew she had certain talents and wasn't afraid to show off those talents. Her outfits usually showed off her 43-26-36 body. Yes, she had large breasts. She once said, "I don't even want to say double Ds because they're bigger than that." And she always claimed that they were natural. And here's another thing about Mamie. She always enjoyed sex and wasn't afraid to talk about it. And according to her, in her autobiography, she had sex with a lot of famous men. She was born Joan Lucille Olander on February 6, 1931 in the small town of Yowena, South Dakota, and grew up on a farm with no running water or electricity. Now, as a child, she was always encouraged to sing and dance, but she was also a sickly child, having 3 operations before the age of 7. In 1939, the family moved to Sioux City, Iowa. Mamie would later say, "When I look back at my early days in Rowena and Sioux City, it seems to me I must have been born into show business. I was always dancing and singing, sometimes liked showing off, I guess, but I really liked to appear in front of people." In May of 1942, as World War II was being fought, the family moved to Los Angeles. Soon after arriving, Joan and her parents stood outside the famous nightclub Mocambo and watched the celebrities arrive. Joan went beyond the barrier that separated the ordinary folks from the famous and asked for an autograph from one of Hollywood's first sex symbols, Mae West. Mae wrote, "Best of luck to Joni, a very pretty girl." The young, impressionable child knew from that moment that she wanted to be the toast of Hollywood, to be adored, envied, and catered to. She wanted to be a star. Joan would return night after night to watch the celebrities arrive. That same year, she experienced a life-changing event. She was kissed by a 13-year-old boy. "I can trace back my own sex life to that first kiss," she once said. "After that, wham, zowie, whoops, I remember it like it was yesterday. I liked it so much I wanted more, much more." Now, while working as an usherette at the Pantages Theater, wearing a uniform, pillbox hat, and carrying a flashlight, she came up with a plan for success. Lana Turner once said that she was discovered sitting at the counter of Top Hat Malt Shop while drinking a Coke. Now, that story's been incorrectly repeated as her being discovered at Schwab's drugstore in Los Angeles. The young Joan had heard that story, so after dyeing her hair blonde, she started hanging around at Schwab's hoping to be discovered. And she was discovered, sort of. She was offered a job on local TV but appeared mostly in the backgrounds. In the summer of 1949, at the age of 18, Joan was with her mother in Palm Springs, Florida on vacation. It was there she entered a beauty contest and won Miss Palm Springs. Returning home to Los Angeles, she won Miss 8-Ball. The beauty contest wins caught the eye of Howard Hughes, who at the time owned RKO Studios. He offered her a contract. Now, I would guess that Hughes was more interested in taking her to bed, as he often did with many young girls, than helping with her acting career. And apparently it worked for Howard Hughes because in Mamie's autobiography, she lists Hughes as one of the men she slept with. She began with a short uncredited scene in Jet Pilot, which began filming in 1949, but wouldn't be released till 1957 due to Hughes' constant tinkering. In between, she appeared in a dozen or so films at RKO, usually small uncredited parts. She was in His Kind of a Woman in 1951 with Robert Mitchum, Jane Russell, and Vincent Price. "If you blink, you would miss me," she once said. "I look barely old enough to drive." She realized that she needed acting lessons and began working on her craft, but even with that, she was turned down by MGM and 20th Century Fox for apparently looking too much like Marilyn Monroe. She posed for a painting by famous pinup girl artist Alberto Vegas. After that, she began getting a lot of work as a model, and then went to New York to work on the stage. On January 20th, 1953, Van Doren signed a contract with Universal Studios with the idea to compete with 20th Century Fox's Marilyn Monroe. Mamie later said, "I have never been a Marilyn Monroe wannabe. I've always been happy in my own skin." It was at that point that Joan Lucille Olander became Mamie Van Doren. Mamie came from President Eisenhower's wife, Mamie Eisenhower, and Van Doren from the famous American intellectual family. She starred in 2 films with Tony Curtis in 1953, Forbidden and The All-American. But her career never really took off at Universal, so after a few years, she began taking larger roles in independent films. The first of these was Untamed Youth in 1957, a rowdy rock and roll story about 2 eye-catching sisters who are arrested for hitchhiking and sentenced to work on a cotton farm. The film has been featured on Mystery Science Theater 3000, but I think it's fun even without Joel and the Bots wisecracking. And while Jane Mansfield did a rock and roll film, The Girl Can't Help It, Untamed Youth has Van Doren singing and dancing rock and roll, perhaps the first actor to do so on film. And here's the thing about Untamed Youth. When it came out, it got horrible reviews and looked like it was going to be a box office failure. But then the Catholic League of Decency publicly condemned it, and suddenly people wanted to see it. They wanted to know what all the fuss was about. Over the next few years, she made a number of crazy films. In 1958, there was Teacher's Pet for Paramount, Born Reckless for Warner Brothers, and High School Confidential for MGM. The following year, she made Beat Generation and Girls Town, both for MGM. In 1960, there was The Private Lives of Adam and Eve, Beautiful Legs of Sabrina, Sex Kittens Go to College, and Vice Raid. The thing is, there's nothing deep or meaningful about her films. They're just little amusing fun and drive-in flicks. One glance at the poster and you know exactly what you're going to get. And she continued to make films, but generally slowed down as time went on. In 1964, she appeared nude in Playboy to promote her film Nuts in Search of a Bolt. One thing about Van Doren is she was never shy about showing off her talents. Other films that are notable were The Las Vegas Hillbillies in '66, The Navy vs. the Night Monster also in '66, and of course Voyage to the Planet of Prehistoric Women in 1968. Now besides all her film work, Van Doren developed a nightclub act and did live theater. She wrote books and made records. She also did numerous magazine spreads. Like I said, she was never shy about showing off her talents. Now, I'm not here to talk about her personal life, but I will say she was married 5 times, and 3 of those marriages lasted less than a year. In her autobiography, she claims to have had affairs with Clark Gable, Howard Hughes, Johnny Carson, Elvis Presley, Burt Reynolds, Jack Dempsey, Steve McQueen, Clint Eastwood, Johnny Rivers, Robert Evans, Eddie Fisher, Warren Beatty, Tony Curtis, Steve Cochran, and Joe Namath. Now, since she didn't drink or smoke, she confessed that the only thing she was addicted to was a good roll in the hay. She once said, "Location never mattered to me much. If I had the urge to do someone in an elevator or taxi or swimming pool, that's where it happened." Now, Marilyn Monroe wanted to be taken seriously and sadly let her demons get the best of her. And Jane Mansfield's film career came and went in the blink of an eye, never really being able to embrace 60s culture, and then she was killed in a tragic car accident. But Mamie is still with us at the age of 89. Now, I'm sure she would have wanted to be taken more seriously as an actress, but when you start doing films like Untamed Youth and Sex Kittens Go to College, it's really hard to get more prestigious work. But in interviews that I've read, she seems pretty happy with her life, and that's fantastic. You know, friends will tell me, they'll say, "Old man, you watch Kurosawa, Scorsese, Wells, Fellini, Hitchcock, and the like. How can you watch Mamie Van Doren?" Well, here's the thing. There are two types of films that interest me. The 20% up here and the 20% down here. The 80% in the middle are just that, middle of the road boredom that I have no time for. Yes, I enjoy some of Van Doren's films as sort of a guilty pleasure, if that is such a thing. What can I say? And I also have an appreciation for free spirits, and I think that's what she was, or is, because she's still alive. Thanks for watching. This is Old Man Kelly saying goodbye. I'll be back soon with something thrilling.